Okay, so there was recently an article in the New York Times. We talked to some Kamala but not Joe voters. Here's what they said. Subtitle, a slice of voters would vote for Vice President Harris but not President Biden, reflecting his challenges and opportunities. This was published on the 16th, so I guess I'm a bit behind. But I wanted to highlight two of the voters that they feature in this article because my question is, what are we supposed to do with people like this? And I really want to know the answer. And I want to know, is it a failure of the media that these people exist? And I'm not talking about people who would prefer Kamala Harris over Joe Biden. I'm talking about these people. And let's just talk about the first one, okay? This is a 21-year-old financial analyst in Las Vegas named Clara. And Clara says that she might vote for Donald Trump. So she likes Kamala Harris, but does not like Joe Biden, and she might vote for Donald Trump. So, quote, personally, I think we were doing a lot better when he was in the presidency, price-wise, money-wise, income-wise. Yet, it says, in some ways, Donald Trump offended her as a woman, and she likes some of the things that Biden has done. Now, here's the real confusing part of this. The article says, most of all, she said, she strongly supports abortion rights and did not realize that Mr. Biden does too. She said that because states' abortion bans had gone into effect during his presidency, she assumed it was because of him. Ultimately, despite her misgivings about the economy, support for abortion rights would probably be what decided her vote. So she seems kind of all over the place, number one. But how is it that there is someone in their 20s that is a financial analyst, seems to, be going about their days, looking at the news, I assume.
Yeah.
And
aware enough that abortion is on the chopping block in America in state after state after state.
And she doesn't know why the abortion bans are being put into place.
Yeah.
She thinks it's because of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So how is that happening?
I would query this is, what in the hell is a financial analyst? And if she's having anything to do with people's financial well-being and their money, yikes, that's not somebody I would want anywhere near my dollars, investment-wise or whatever the hell she does, if she's that bereft of understanding and is that ignorant about the political process and the political parties and where they stand. That is a deficit in civics education in our country. One more glaring example of it.
Well, and it's also taking Trump at his word, I guess, when he goes on these rants about how things were so much better under his presidency, when that's just not the case.
I just did a video today, posted a video today, which is Wednesday.
I wasn't at all teeing you up for that, knowing that you did this video today.
and I addressed some of the, like he's now in campaign mode with some of these videos, and he's talking about how wonderful things were 3 years ago is the time frame he gives.
What was happening 3 years ago?
3 years ago, he's like, gas was so low, the economy was rocking. 3 years ago, Americans were dying by the tens of thousands daily sometimes from COVID. Right. No one was driving because we were afraid to leave our homes because there wasn't a vaccine yet, and people were dying. 3 years ago, things were not great.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is trying to, things were great in the early days. You don't get credit for how things began.
Yeah.
You get credit for how things finished in your administration.
Right. Yeah. So on that note, let's just talk about one more voter, because I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this, but really I'd be curious to know what the audience thinks too about, is it the fact that Joe Biden in this instance is not talking enough about abortion directly? Like, he's not saying that word. He's not coming out and saying we need to protect abortion rights, that he does have a tendency to kind of dance around the word and not use the word abortion. Like, is it just that he needs to be more forceful, or is it the media's error, or is it just something that this person is not reading the news, not in tune, not educating themselves enough? And how do we fix that problem?
I think that it's likely a combination of all those things to give the real strict cop-out answer. First of all, Joe Biden, I don't believe is out there enough. The campaign has begun. If he wants to be the nominee, as it appears he's going to be, he needs to be doing direct action, direct talking, speeches that are going to get televised to highlight his positions and what his plan is for a second term. I really don't know. We're in tune, and I don't know what Joe Biden is promising for a second term. That's a problem, because we're not Clara, the 25-year-old financial analyst who has her head straight in her asshole and doesn't understand politics at all. We're not her.
Yeah.
Secondly, I believe there is a problem in the mainstream media right now with trying to tee up and set up this equivocation and leveling of the playing field between the dangers that Donald Trump actually poses and what some of the foibles of a flawed man that Joe Biden is, his age in particular. So they're not doing him any favors either. And because of that, he needs to go extra hard and do the extra work to get his message out there.
Right.
And then, of course, it's also that she's a dumb shit. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, let's get your perspective on one more voter featured in this article. Mr. Maxon is how they refer to him. So Mr. Maxon, the 25-year-old garbage collector in Pennsylvania, considers himself a Democrat, though this election would be his first time voting. The Israel-Hamas war has made him doubt Mr. Biden's handling of foreign affairs, and he recalls policies under Mr. Trump that helped him. Quote, "My biggest thing is not seeing America fall in shambles," he said. "With this war, I think Biden is way too lenient with Hamas, Iran, Iraq, the whole 9 yards. What I like about Trump is he was keeping everybody at bay and not wanting to mess with America." So this is someone who calls himself a Democrat.
Yeah.
Talking like Donald Trump is the strong man that Donald Trump likes to portray himself as, and that he was protecting America from falling into shambles.
This is the New York Times?
Yes.
Well, maybe it's just 25-year-olds are dumb shits, because both of these people are 25.
Well, how are we going to reach? I mean, that's the question. That's what I'm wrestling with after reading this, is how do we reach people like this? And I do think part of it is the media. I mean, those things that I mentioned, those variables that are at play are the things that are in my head. And I agree with you about what the media is focusing on. I mean, we're working on a piece on Project 2025 because it's very important to cover that. And the media hasn't been talking enough about that. I mean, when you look at Biden versus Trump, and the media keeps trying to highlight Biden's age, his, he trips over stuff. He, whatever.
He's 81.
Yeah.
Shit happens, you trip.
Right. And Donald Trump is planning to, on day one, implement Schedule F, which is going to make tens of thousands of federal workers put into a category where they can just be replaced by people that they already have signed up and waiting for a position that are sympathetic and supportive of Donald Trump and his policies and ready to go on day one and completely transform the government. And so, I mean, that seems like something that they should be talking more about when they're talking about Biden's age.
Yeah, Donald Trump is absolutely going to. Donald Trump, maybe not himself, but the people he's put around him, they've learned from their mistakes in the first term, and they're going to implement some insane shit in his second term. And for the 25-year-old garbage man from Pennsylvania or the 25-year-old financial analyst in Las Vegas, it's going to be a world of hurt. For people who, well, Biden's being too lenient on Iran and Iraq. Like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know. We definitely need to do a better job of being patient and being instructive and helping these people learn because they are voters. But I don't have to be happy about it, right? I mean, come on.